Guthrie Theater, Lerner Publishing, Sheila Livingston, David Russell, Bonnie Casey, and myself, Shawn Judge. I welcome you to the celebration for Isabel Monk and Janice Lee Porter on the release of their book, Hope.
The thing that inspired the writing of Hope for me was after Shawn Judge and Steve Yoakam had their daughter, Sene Elise Judge Yoakam, I went to, I think, Barnes & Noble and Borders, a couple of bookstores, and looked for a book that kind of reflected their home life, what was going on in their life, you know, a black mom and a white dad and a mixed-race child, and I didn't find any of that in the bookstore. So I went home, and I went home and I thought about it, and like 4:30 in the morning, this little story kind of came to me. So I wrote that down, and then a couple of days later, I went to Paper Depot down here, and I bought all this, you know, this fun paper and stuff, and drew these little pictures, and got on my computer and blew up the, you know, language, and then for Christmas that year, 1996, I came up with this, which is a terrible, terrible drawing. But anyway, it's for Sene, Merry Christmas, 1996, Love, Auntie Isabel. And this is it.
Well, before Sene was born, we were always on the lookout for good material, and we were conscious that there weren't a lot of material out there for kids, but we didn't start an active search until she was born. And then I went to several bookstores, and the books were really just very mysterious about the subject. And I don't want to say titles, but I was very concerned. And I asked the bookstores, what do you have for children of mixed race? And they apologized, and they really didn't have many. And I told them...
Some hadn't even thought about it.
Right. So that was
a concern. It hadn't occurred. It wasn't a subject matter that had come up much.
Mm-hmm. So Isabel's book wasn't the first book, but it was the first book out there that dealt with the subject, but it was the first book that put it in a very positive light. I felt the other books, we should have perhaps been a little ashamed or embarrassed by what we had done.
It was such a personal thing because she's been a part of our family even before Sene was born. We're lifelong friends now, and she just gave it to us as a Christmas gift, and
it was a surprise.
I was flabbergasted, mm-hmm. and just moved beyond words. I couldn't. I just started crying.
I thought the book was perfect, and we loved the illustration.
Once I gave this book to Shawn and Steve, and they kind of passed it around to people, and specifically people was Sheila Livingston. And Sheila Livingston said, "Oh, I've got a friend in the publishing business. His name is Harry Lerner. Why don't you send it down to Harry Lerner?" Well, I did send it down to Harry Lerner, and Harry Lerner sent it back and said, "A little too sentimental, and if you could change this, and we don't." So I did everything that they said to do, and then they said, "Okay, we'll buy your book." And then they showed me a couple of people's illustrations, and then they showed me Janice's illustrations, Janice Lee Porter's illustrations, and I was very excited. And then they said, "Well, Janice Lee Porter will be your illustrator." Well, Jack Ruler, who is also here today, I saw him right after I found out that Janice was going to be the illustrator, and I said, he said, "So who's going to illustrate your little children's book?" And I said, "Some woman named Janice Lee Porter." "Oh, I know Janice Lee Porter. I went to high school with her. She's Anthony Porter's wife." Both those names were like big question marks in my head. And I said, "Well, do you have her number?" Because I was, going to just call and say hi. Because I didn't really realize that it was such a horrible thing to speak to your illustrator. Taboo. I mean, really, no.
Well, when I saw the new book and I saw the illustrations, I said to Isabel, "Boy, it looks like Janice was waiting to do this book." Mm-hmm. And she said that's exactly what Janice had said, that she was indeed waiting for an opportunity to do this kind of book. So her illustrations are so alive and vibrant, and I think captured the spirit of what Isabel was trying to share with folks, the message.
I called Janice and spoke to her, and we kind of set up a time to meet. And then I told Melissa Warden, my editor, that I had spoken to Janice Lee Porter, and I thought she was going to die. I just remember that. I thought she was going to die. She said, well, you know, please don't make a habit of calling her. And I went, Janice didn't seem to be upset. But Melissa was just, you know, following a rule that I guess has been in place forever.
She didn't tell you just not to call after 9.
No, she said, no, just don't call her. And so I talked to Janice, and here we are.
I think that because I was able to meet Isabel and run the sketches by her and run the paintings by her, I had confidence in them that they were going the right way. And really, yes, we spoke and now we're great buds, but she was out of town. She left me alone. I painted, but I did at 2 crucial points show them to her, and was glad that I had, and look forward to on the next one calling her up about every 2 sentences asking, okay, now what do you think of this here? We're going to go for true collaboration.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But it'll be mostly like my going, yeah, Janice, that looks good. Yeah.
Well, I got to have some feedback from my husband, who writes as AP Porter, but that was so long ago when we did Kwanzaa in '91. And it has been since then until now. Yes, this is the first feedback of the late '90s.
Janice, I don't know. Every time I think about, I just wrote these words down, and she made these words palpable. She made them. She made these people, you know? She made them.
And I felt so comfortable and so welcome that I feel very strongly that I have a new friend, and I feel that she just brought visually to life the love that I feel exists in my family, and I thank you for that, Janice. Janice, she is a painter, she is an illustrator. An illustrator is the one who painted all the pictures in the book.
Yeah.
Every picture in the book is a small painting that they then copy, and I don't know the details, but it's very, very special. Janice lives here in Minneapolis with her husband and her 3 wonderful boys. Isabel, well, today's turnout says it all. It says that Isabel, for me, is the embodiment of love. And your presence here confirms what I have already known for quite some time, that she is just loved by everyone that she meets and gets to know. Isabel is one of the most generous and kindest and gentlest people that I know. And it is so fitting that she is now writing books for children. Her loving spirit and her nurturing soul is just perfect for bringing young children along. And I think it's just wonderful, and that we are very fortunate that she's on this journey. And she's just wonderful. And again, I need to applaud her. Isabel is an award-winning actress who has been on Broadway, who has worked extensively throughout the United States and Europe. We have seen her on television and in the movies. Wow. And now, she is a published children's book writer. She had a vision, she saw it through, and she got it done. And I wrote on that Cadillac, dreams do come true. They are not impossible. They are not impossible. With the help of your friends like Sheila Livingston. Yeah. So without further ado, let's welcome Isabella
and Janice. I would like to thank Shawn Judge and Stephen Yoakam for sitting in the Dram one night and having stars spark between them, and 6 years later, presenting the world with Sene Elise Judge Yoakam. And also, I'd like to show you the book that I gave Shawn, Judge, and Steve Yoakam, Christmas 1996. This is the original Hope, with my drawings that are so pathetic. This is for Sene, Merry Christmas 1996, and love, Auntie Isabel. And that was what the first page looks like. I'm just going to flip through this really quickly so you all can get a laugh. This is Shawn. This is Steve. This is a cup of cocoa and a chicken and some apricot jam and a question mark and stars and moon and blah, blah, blah. And these are the pilgrims. And these are American Gothic in black. Some freedom fighters, teachers, the world. Oh my gosh. And here is Shawn, Steve, and Sene. Yay. And now we're going to show you some real drawing. Here we go. Every summer, I spend at least one weekend in the country with my mama's Aunt Pooji. The instant I step out of the car, Aunt Pooji scoops me up in her arms and says, I could just eat you up. I think Aunt Pooji holds all the love in the world inside her and lets it out bit by bit through the twinkle in her eye. The summer before second grade, I'm in the 6th grade now. I spent a weekend at Aunt Pooji's that I'll always remember. Early Saturday morning, we got into Aunt Pooji's pink Cadillac, which she won for selling more fancy-made cosmetics than any other lady in 3 states. We drove along the river to the open-air market. I always loved the big crowded marketplace. Aunt Pooji saw lots of her friends there. First, we ran into Mr. Stewart, my favorite. He has a smile like a picket fence. Aunt Pooji calls him Stew Pot because he has a big pot belly. Like always, he had some cherry licorice for me, and of course, a smile. Then I met Miss Teacup Hill, a woman about Aunt Pooji's age and my size. Aunt Pooji said her real name is Thelma, but folks call her Teacup because when she was born, she was so small, her mama used the teacup for a cradle. All of a sudden, across the whole market came a sound that only a steam whistle could make. Prudence! Prudence! Aunt Pooji's real name is Prudence. My Grandpa Jack, who is her big brother, could only say Pooji when he was little. It stuck. Well, long time no see, girl, the human steam whistle said. So you came home, Violet. You don't look a day older, Aunt Pooji said as they hugged each other. Miss Violet and Aunt Pooji grew up together, but Miss Violet moved away. She comes back every few years or so to visit. They talked on about who had died, and who had married, who had divorced, and who had had new babies. Then Aunt Pooji put her arm around my shoulder and said, Violet, I'll bet you can't guess whose baby this is. Miss Violet looked over her glasses and down her nose at me. She even gestured for me to turn around. Then she declared, this child doesn't fail a soul in your family. She's Eve's little girl. You remember Eve, don't you? My brother Jack's daughter? Aunt Pooji said, oh, my, yes. Miss Violet said suspiciously, well, she sure enough has her mama's big brown eyes. Miss Violet couldn't take her eyes off me. She leaned into Aunt Pooji and in a low voice said, my goodness, Prudence, is the child mixed? Aunt Pooji put her hand up like a traffic cop, rolled her eyes, set her mouth, and in a razor-sharp voice said, Violet, what on earth do you think? Well, after they had said their goodbyes, and we finished our shopping and headed home, we finished our shopping and headed home. The ride home was quiet, the most quiet ride I can remember. Finally, I asked, what did Miss Violet mean? Is the child missed? Aunt Poogie stroked my head with one hand and said, baby, don't you pay Violet no never mind. But I did. All the way home I thought about what Miss Violet had said. All through my afternoon snack, all through helping Aunt Poogie snap the fresh green beans, all through dinner, all through brushing my teeth, and even as I said my prayers, I could not stop hearing Miss Violet say, my goodness, is the child missed? But when I heard Aunt Poogie's slippers clip-clop, clip-clop, clip-clopping down the hall toward me, all thoughts of Miss Violet went clip-clop right out of my head. It was time for my favorite part of the weekend. Just before I get into bed, Aunt Poogie comes into the room, sits in the big old rocking chair near the window, rocks me on her lap, and tells me stories about our family. Sometimes it's the story of her and Grandpa Jack when they were my age and lived on a farm. They could never get those frying chickens out of the cherry tree for Great-Grandma Nellie to cook up for Sunday dinner. Sometimes it's the story of how she had to scrub my mama from head to toe with tomato juice after Mama found a black kitty with a white stripe down her back. The kitty turned out to be a skunk. Sometimes it's just quiet humming and the sound of Aunt Poogie's sturdy heartbeat to tell the night's tale. That night, as Aunt Poogie rocked, she asked me, would you like to know how you got your name? The story had never been about me before. I was so excited that all I could do was nod my head yes. And in her best bedtime voice, Aunt Poogie began my story. You have your mother's beautiful brown eyes. You have the noble shape of your father's face. Your skin is the color of delicious things like a perfect cup of cocoa, my special golden fried chicken, or the apricot jam you helped me make last summer. Baby, when people like Violet look at you, they think you are made of only what they can see. But I know what it truly took to make hope. It took the faith of your daddy's immigrant great-great-great-grandparents to be true to their dreams. It took the faith of your mama's enslaved great-great-great-grandparents to know that a better day was coming. It took the faith of your Grandpa Jack and Grandma Jane to stand up in the face of hatred, fear, and ignorance. It took the faith of your Grandpa Vince and Grandma Kate to teach others that knowledge is freedom and should be free. And most important was the faith of your very own Mama and Daddy to look forward to a future where you will be proud to be a part of a race that is simply human. So when someone asks, my goodness, is the child mixed? You can say in a clear voice, yes, I am generations of faith mixed with lots of love. I am hope. With those words, Aunt Poogie put me into bed, kissed me with a butterfly kiss, and said, good night, Hope. That weekend, I realized how lucky I am to have Aunt Poogie. Her stories tell me where I'm from and help me to get where I'm going. But her stories are not for me to keep. They are for me to share. Thank you. You know, today when I was standing behind that group of people, and I felt washed with love. And I know it sounds corny, but it was true. Washed with love. And we've done these readings, I don't know, 10, 15 times. And I've read the book over and over again, and I never get weepy. But today was the first time ever that we have been in a situation where there were that many biracial, mixed-race children right in front of me, that I looked out and I couldn't speak. I could not speak.
I just think that the one thing I love about the book is, of course, the fact that we have a personal attachment to it, is that this is, as our population is changing, this is the face of the 21st century. I mean, America has inevitably changed forever. I mean, as all the peoples have come together, the faces are merging, you know, and we're all becoming one population. That's not an idealistic or a pipe dream. It's just the reality of who these kids are going to grow up to be by the middle or the latter part of the next century, after we're all gone. I mean, this is the way the population's headed.
I'm hoping that people's minds and hearts will open up to the ideas that are in Hope, but I'm a little nervous about pushing it on people. If people come to us, you know, if they hear about it and they like it, then that's fine, but I'm not going to push it down anybody's throat unless it's Rosie or Oprah. And not only that, people who can get the word to other people, get it out. And people who people listen to and aren't going to be offended by, or aren't going to, you know, not everybody, this hope is not for everybody. And that's, not everybody wants to be hopeful. And I'm not into pushing my own agenda on onto other people.
I hope it will change attitudes one person, one family at a time. I think it's unrealistic to hope that a huge sweep and the world would be a perfect place, but...
Unless, of course, we're talking about nappy hair.
That's right.
And the world changes.
And the world changes. I think change comes from one relationship, one book, one family's relationship to the book, and they will change from knowing Steve and I and the people we meet, and it won't become so unfamiliar, and they'll see us as real people and not just those strange folks. So maybe, I don't know.
The personal experience.
It's the personal experience, and I believe strongly that that's how change comes about.
And it starts with children.
Well, I know that any families that are mixed up will love it. And any racial mixtures, they'll relate to it. I would love to see Mr. and Mrs. Whitebread pick it up and read it to their white children. And I would love to see families who have not had any contact with this kind of mixing somehow pick it up. And I think schools may be where it happens. I don't think teachers are going to be shy of this at all. And they may be the ones that get it in the kid's hands, and kid takes it home, and it's kind of an opener.
Okay, we're going to have some fun and games here today. We have two wonderfully talented performers here, Matthew Bakey and T. Michael Rambo.
We're just gonna pretend for a little bit, okay? And so we'll warm up our imaginations. I'm the warm-up act, which is the greatest place to be, okay? So, first, everybody, pretend like you're really sad, okay? Just pretend like you're really sad. But pretend like you're really angry, okay? All right, back to normal, That's good. All right, now, pretend like you're really afraid. All right, very good. You guys are great. Okay, good. All right, now pretend like you're really happy. Bigger, happier. Okay, stay there. Okay, good. All right, good. It's a little bit bigger. Add your legs now. Your legs and your feet. Nothing else moves. Try not to move anything else. Now add your hips. Good. Now add your stomach. Now add your chest. And your shoulders and your arms and your hands and your neck. Breathe.
Right. So if I go boop, boop, what do you do? And I go chick, chick, what do you do? And I go tick, tick, what do you do? And blue, what do you do? There you go. You got it. Good. Now, let's all say vowel sounds with me like A. All pronunciate A. E. I. O. U. Now we're going to add a consonant, which is like a letter that's not a vowel. With it, right? So we're going to go like May. Me. My. Mo. Moo. Good. Butter gutter. Not bad. It's absolutely. Okay. And so let's put our hands up with our trombone, and we'll go with me. 5, 6, 7, 8. Do-wop, 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 do-wop.
I thank you all for coming and just making my life so rich. Really, truly rich. It's overwhelming, and I will remember this day forever. That my family has been embraced through this book, and you're a very special part of our lives. I don't know your names, but you're in my soul.
Today, or when we're at these book signings and somebody thanks us,
We made it.
you made it.